Top 7 Notorious Historical Prisons. Over the ages, prisons have been used to hold criminals and political opponents. Some prisons have become notorious for holding famous prisoners, or for the brutal torture of prisoners. An overview of the world's most famous prisons. 1. San Quentin Prison, USA. San Quentin Prison in California is considered one of the largest prisons in the United States. In 1930, the administration of San Quentin Prison was quite lenient because most of the prisoners were convicted of corruption. Until Clinton Truman Duffy took over as warden of the prison, he decided to implement reforms in 1940. Prisoners are required to shave their heads and wear uniforms with numbers. They are kept in concrete cells with no light, electricity, or water, and are only allowed out for meals or community service. Even the slightest crime will result in prisoners being isolated and placed in solitary confinement with inadequate food and personal living conditions. Racial riots in this prison are a regular occurrence. Today, this prison has been reformed and is no longer a hell. With upgraded facilities and prison management systems, especially the medical center to ensure the health of prisoners. 2. Camp 1391, Northern Israel. Camp 1391, nicknamed Israel's Guantanamo, is an Israeli Defense Forces prison camp for high-risk prisoners in northern Israel, about an hour's drive from Tel Aviv. The existence of the prison was unknown until it was made public in 2003, perhaps because of the inhumane treatment of its inmates. Former inmates were subjected to sexual abuse, torture, small cells with no light or water, and frequent solitary confinement. Israeli officials have kept the prison in use since 2006. But how they managed to keep it running so secret, even satellites couldn't detect it, or whether it had ever been closed, is unknown until they found themselves locked inside its four walls. 3. Rikers Island Prison, USA. During the 1950s, the prison guards were all recruited from different social backgrounds and were often violent towards the prisoners. Every day, there were more than a dozen beatings. Many prisoners committed suicide. Some wrote petitions for the death penalty, and the number of mentally ill patients was increasing. Currently, after reform and rectification of the prison staff, Rikers Island Prison is still one of the largest and most notorious prisons in the United States, with a number of prisoners up to 14,000 people. 4. Kamatai Maximum Security Prison, Nairobi, Kenya. The maximum security prison in Kenya was originally built to hold 1.400 inmates, but now holds 3.600. It holds many political prisoners, including rebel leader Dedan Kimathi, who was executed in 1957, ranked as the worst prison in the world. Prisoners are routinely raped, beaten and kept in inhumane conditions. They are forced to carry buckets of water every day because there is no water supply. This also means they do not have enough water for personal hygiene. Even after leaving Kamatai, prisoners are said to still have serious psychological problems. 5. Tadmor Prison, Syria. Located in Syria, the death toll at this prison is hard to count, and the stories of the prison are always chilling to the Syrian people. Violence is a specialty here. Black prisoners are beaten. Political criminals are starved to death in 1980. After failing to manage the prisoners, the government sent helicopters and machine guns to kill 500 prisoners in the prison. Up to now, despite some reforms, this hell on earth still maintains a very strict and harsh prison regime. 6. Petak Island Prison, White Lake, Russia. Dubbed the Russian Alcatraz. This prison on an island in northern Russia houses some of the country's most dangerous and violent criminals. There are no inmate fights, bullying or alcoholism common in other Russian prisons, but its rigid and brutal regime has crushed even the most violent inmates. Each prisoner is held in a small two-person cell for 22.5 hours a day. They are only allowed 2 visits a year and have very little contact with the outside world. Not surprisingly, 2 prisoners are now suffering from clinical dementia. Half of the prisoners had tuberculosis. And even prison psychologists said, "This is a place that destroys people. In the first 9 months they adapt. After 3 or 4 years, their personalities start to deteriorate. 7. ADX Florence Prison, Colorado, USA. Known as the clean version of hell, ADX houses America's most dangerous criminals. Some of the prisoners sent here require extreme restraint. Prisoners are kept in their cells for 23 hours a day. They are not allowed to interact with other prisoners and have limited interaction with guards. Prisoners are not exposed to natural light and are not allowed outside for more than an hour a day. It is believed that the limited light is intended to mentally break the prisoners. The prison is believed to currently hold many Al-Qaeda members, terrorist bombers, drug cartel bosses and bosses of organized crime groups. Above are the top 7 most notorious prisons in the world. In your opinion, is this arrangement reasonable? Please leave your opinion in the comments section.